At 17, Aisha is forced into an arranged marriage with a man 3 times her age. But on her wedding night, she makes a choice that shocks her entire village. Before we jump into the story, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future stories. The sun had barely risen when Aisha's mother barged into her room, her eyes shining with forced joy. "Aisha," she said, straightening the girl's braided hair, "your future has been decided. You are to marry Al-Haji Musa." Aisha sat up slowly, confusion tightening in her chest. "Al-Haji Musa," she repeated. "He's older than Baba." Her mother's face stiffened. "He is wealthy and respected. This is a blessing." Aisha was only 17, still in school, and had dreams of becoming a teacher. But in their conservative northern village, a girl's dreams meant little when a powerful man made an offer. Al-Haji Musa, a man in his 50s with 3 wives already, had noticed Aisha at the last Eid celebration. Her beauty and quiet grace had drawn his attention, and he wasted no time sending his emissaries. That evening, Aisha's father returned with kola nuts and an envelope of cash. "It is settled," he said without meeting her eyes. "The wedding is in 2 weeks." Aisha felt the walls closing in on her. Her younger siblings danced around her, unaware their sister's world was collapsing. She stared out the window at the setting sun, her heart pounding. That night, she lay awake wondering how she could escape a fate she never chose. For the next 2 weeks, Aisha moved like a ghost through her own life. The village women came to the compound with drums and cheerful songs, helping her mother prepare for the grand wedding. Aisha was measured for her lace dress, her hands decorated with henna, her face powdered until she looked like someone else. But inside, she was unraveling. No one asked how she felt, not her parents, not her aunties, not even her friends, who looked on with envy, thinking she was lucky to be marrying a wealthy man. In her heart, Aisha screamed every night. She wrote letters to herself in a hidden notebook, pouring out her fear and anger, the dreams she was being forced to bury. She imagined herself standing before a classroom, chalk in hand, a room full of curious children. But every time she opened her eyes, the image faded. What awaited her was not a future of books and laughter, but the cold embrace of a man older than her grandfather. 3 days before the wedding, her best friend Zainab sneaked into her room with a scarf covering her head and fear in her eyes. "You don't have to go through with it," she whispered. "There's a woman in the next town who helps girls escape." Aisha's heart leapt, but the thought of running away, of shaming her family, terrified her. She shook her head slowly. "If I run, they'll curse me. My mother will cry for the rest of her life." Zainab grabbed her hand. "Or you can stay and die inside." Aisha didn't answer. But that night, something inside her shifted. Not towards escape, but towards something more dangerous. The day of the wedding arrived with loud music and bright colors. The entire village buzzed with excitement. Children ran around with sugared treats, women sang praises of Al-Haji Musa's generosity, and the men sat in clusters, praising Aisha's beauty and her family's luck. But Aisha felt nothing but dread. Her lace dress, heavy with beads and embroidery, clung to her like a cage. Her smile was painted on, but her soul was numb. As the guests cheered and danced, Al-Haji Musa arrived in his igbada, his potbelly leading the way. He walked with confidence, flanked by 2 of his wives who kept their eyes low. His gaze swept over Aisha like he owned her already. "You look delicious," he whispered to her as he leaned close during the ceremony. She stiffened, forcing a nod, while bile rose in her throat. Later that evening, Aisha sat in the decorated room prepared for the wedding night. Candles flickered against the satin drapes. Her hands trembled. She thought of her mother, dancing outside with pride, and of her father counting the money in his room. She thought of Zainab's words echoing in her ears, "You can stay and die inside." Her heart pounded louder than the drums still playing outside. The door creaked open. Al-Haji Musa stepped in, his face lit with hunger. Finally, he grinned, locking the door. Aisha stood, staring at him. Then, with calm in her voice, she said, "Before anything happens, I need to tell you something." He paused, surprised. "What is it?" Aisha took a deep breath. "I am not yours. And tonight, I will prove it to everyone." Al-Haji Musa frowned. "What foolish talk is this?" he said, stepping closer. Aisha didn't flinch. Her voice remained calm, her hands steady. "You may have paid my bride price, but you didn't buy me. I will not let you touch me." His face darkened. "You belong to me now, girl. Obedience is your duty." He reached for her, but she stepped back, pulling something from beneath her wrapper, a small blade. It wasn't large, but its glint caught the candlelight. Al-Haji stopped in his tracks. "I'm not here to die quietly," she said. "If you lay a hand on me, I'll spill my own blood before you even try." Her hands trembled, but her eyes held fire. Al-Haji Musa hesitated, his ego wounded. "Are you threatening me on our wedding night?" Aisha's voice was steady now. "No. I'm making a choice. One no girl in this village has dared to make." He scoffed and turned toward the door. "You'll regret this. Your parents will hear of your madness." "Let them," Aisha said. "Let them hear everything." And so he left, slamming the door behind him. Outside, murmurs grew. The guests were still celebrating when Al-Haji stormed out of the house, humiliated and red with rage. People whispered, eyes wide. What could have happened? Why was the groom alone? Aisha stepped out minutes later, still in her wedding gown, the blade tucked away. She walked past the guests, past the drummers, past her family. All eyes followed her, stunned. She walked with her head high. No tears. No shame. Only silence. And in that silence, a revolution was born. By morning, the entire village was talking. Women whispered behind market stalls, children reenacted Al-Haji Musa storming out of the wedding house, and elders shook their heads in disbelief. "Disgraceful," they muttered. "How could a girl shame her husband like that?" But even in their judgment, a strange silence followed her name. Aisha had done the unthinkable, and somehow, she was still standing. Her parents were furious. Her father slapped the wall so hard a clock fell. "You humiliated us," he shouted. "Do you think you're better than your mother or your grandmother?" Her mother cried in shame, begging her to apologize and fix the marriage. But Aisha refused. "You gave me away like I was cattle," she said, her voice low. "I'm not going back." That evening, Al-Haji Musa returned with elders and threats. He demanded the bride price be refunded, saying Aisha was damaged goods. Her father, now more embarrassed than angry, agreed to return the money, but not before shaming her in front of the elders. "She is no longer my daughter," he said. "She has brought disgrace to our family." The words stung, but Aisha held back her tears. She had expected this. Zainab, waiting outside, helped her pack a small bag. There's a women's shelter in the next town. They'll take you. I already called them. With nothing but courage and a few clothes, Aisha left that night. She didn't look back at the house she once called home. She didn't flinch at the curious eyes watching her go. She walked into the unknown with her back straight. She had lost her family, her village, and her reputation, but for the first time, she had something worth more, her freedom. The shelter in the neighboring town was nothing like home, but that was the best part. The walls were plain, the beds firm, and the food simple, but Aisha felt safer than she had in months. The women there greeted her with soft smiles, not judgment. Some were older, some younger, and all of them carried scars, some visible, some hidden. For the first time, Aisha wasn't alone. She met Mama Ruth, the shelter's coordinator, a tall, firm woman with warm eyes. "You're brave," Mama Ruth said as she helped Aisha settle in. "Most girls never get to walk away. You did." Aisha didn't respond right away. Her body was there, but her mind was still back in the village, reliving every whisper, every shame-filled glance. The days passed slowly. Aisha joined therapy sessions, helped with chores, and even started taking classes offered at the shelter. Mama Ruth encouraged her to return to school. "You're smart. Don't let tradition kill your light," she'd say. Aisha listened quietly, unsure if her dreams still mattered. But a tiny flame inside her had begun to flicker again. One afternoon, while journaling under a tree in the compound, a girl approached her. She was just 16, newly arrived, and terrified. "They said you stood up to your husband," the girl whispered. "Is it true?" Aisha looked up, surprised. Then she nodded. "Yes. I did." The girl's eyes widened with awe. "I want to be like you." Aisha smiled for the first time in weeks, not because everything was fine, but because she realized something: her choice, her pain, her courage, it was not wasted. It was hope. And someone had already picked it up. Months passed, and Aisha began to blossom. The quiet, fearful girl who once dreaded her wedding night was becoming a bold young woman. She re-enrolled in school through a community program Mama Ruth recommended and began volunteering at the shelter, helping new arrivals adjust. Every time a frightened girl walked through the gates, Aisha was the first to offer comfort. She became the story whispered in hopeful tones: "That's the girl who said no." One day, a local radio station invited Mama Ruth to speak on women's rights. She brought Aisha along, thinking she would sit quietly and listen. But when the host asked, "What gives a girl the strength to walk away from a forced marriage?" Mama Ruth turned to her. "Aisha, would you like to answer that?" Aisha's heart raced. The microphone felt heavier than it looked. But as she leaned in, the words poured out. "Strength doesn't mean you're not afraid," she said, her voice clear. "It means doing what's right even when you are." She spoke of tradition, silence, fear, and the power of saying no. The host was stunned. Calls flooded in afterward. Some praised her. Others condemned her. But everyone listened. That night, as they returned to the shelter, Mama Ruth smiled proudly. "You've found your voice," she said. "And people are hearing it." Aisha looked up at the stars. She hadn't just escaped a marriage, she had broken a pattern. Her story was no longer about shame. It was about survival, courage, and change. And deep in her heart, she knew, the girl who once felt powerless was becoming the woman who would empower others. A year after the wedding that never was, Aisha returned to her village, not as a bride, not as a runaway, but as a speaker invited by a local women's group. Word spread fast, the girl who defied Al-Haji Musa was coming home. Some villagers whispered in disapproval, others in curiosity. The elders rolled their eyes. But the women, especially the younger ones, gathered at the community hall early, their eyes wide with expectation. Dressed modestly in a flowing gown and matching hijab, Aisha stepped onto the stage. Her voice trembled at first, but steadied as she shared her story, not to shame anyone, but to break the silence. "A girl is not property," she said. "She has dreams, thoughts, choices. And her body is her own." Some clapped. Some stared coldly. But one face caught her eye, her mother, sitting quietly at the back, tears in her eyes. After the event, as people dispersed, her mother approached her slowly. "I failed you," she whispered. "I thought I was protecting you, but I was just repeating what I was taught." Aisha hugged her tightly, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You didn't fail me," she said. "You gave me life. Now, I'm living it." Later, girls approached her shyly, asking questions, seeking advice. Some even hugged her, whispering thank you. Aisha saw herself in every one of them. She knew her journey wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to every girl who had ever been silenced. That night, as she left the village again, she didn't feel like an outcast. She felt like a spark that had lit 1,000 more. Aisha had once chosen to stand alone on her wedding night. Now, she walked with an army of voices behind her. Don't miss out on our future stories. If you enjoyed this one, hit that like button, share with your loved ones, and subscribe to African Tales by Kes for more incredible tales from Africa's rich tradition.